Alright, here we are. We are live for Chapter 5 of The Unknown Prince. As per usual, pretty short chapter. So, here we go. Oh yeah, just as a reminder, let's see. The option that got chosen was the first one. That would be splendid, honestly. Any help would be appreciated. Okay. That would be splendid, honestly. Walter smiled as he spoke in response. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Simple enough, the half-face smirked and shrugged before turning to his two fellow warlocks. You two can take over for the Vizronin once we get to Gryffindor. I'll take Sir Walter here to meet with Soya. Works for me, the tall, pale fellow in the veil responded. The female nodded as well, but said nothing, and soon the assorted party was on its way down the avenue. Where are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Plosian struck up a friendly conversation as they stepped through the lightning rain. The two warlocks followed with the Vizronin officials between them to prevent further altercations with townsfolk. They received some dirty looks, but little else. The nobleman took note of the scene, but focused on the half-fae in his friendly banter. My family hails from Grim Mountain, though we've recently relocated to the Durgish region. That explains why you've worked with summoners, Plosian chuckled softly. Wargraven has been the talk of Durgish for some time. They're halfway finished constructing the citadel, Walter nodded. It's a rather inspiring event to behold. So did one of your kids run off or something? Walter was forced to pause and shoot the scout an almost puzzled expression as he turned his eyes back to the path ahead. What makes you say that? Well, you're here. You're looking for someone who likely went to Gryffindor. For all we know, you have a family business they're trying to weasel out of by becoming a summoner. He chuckled softly. We've had stuff like that happen before. The nobleman chuckled back in return. If my children have the desire to become summoners, I'd embrace the decision wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, none have such an interest. I'm still very proud of them, no matter what they choose to do. Now see, that's a nice way to be. Plosian smiled as he waved to his two comrades once they reached the citadel. Both parties split and went separate directions once they were inside the grand structure. Once through the 60-foot walls, they crossed the spacious lawn of a courtyard and into the massive tower which was the citadel of Gryffindor. Easily more than 400 feet tall and likely some half-mile in diameter, the stone structure was decorated with the statues and hanging tapestries of avatars. A pair of stained-glass windows sat either side of the grand hall entrance, where a number of robed summoners conversed along the walls, sometimes sitting upon benches, sofas, or armchairs provided for such meetings. It created a pleasant hubbub of chatter that had Walter looking this way and that in curious intrigue. Plosian gently nudged the nobleman on the arm as he caught sight of the particular summoner he was looking for, and offered Walter a quick side nod to indicate the direction they needed to go. Walter stepped lightly along, unperturbed by the casual way in which he'd been touched. The scout led them to a winged elf with pale, near-white hair and gray eyes behind neat, rectangular eyeglasses. He was in conversation with a fellow much taller than he, who seemed to resemble a humanoid shape of tangled roots and stones, eyes glowing pools of pale gold. They ceased speaking as they spotted Plosian approaching and turned to greet him. The winged elf was the one who spoke. Greetings, Sire Plosian. Something I can do for you today? The scout tugged one of his fox-like ears at the pair and nodded as he halted before them. Indeed, Sire Gravi, this is Sir Walter, and he's looking for someone that may have come to the citadel recently. Yesterday, more specifically, the nobleman clarified. The young-featured Gravi shifted his folded wings at his back and gave the statement some thought. The only new arrivals we had yesterday was a young prodigy of about 5 brought by her uncle, and a young man in his 20s whom we're not even sure has a bonding resonance. I have several more open contracts I'm discussing, but those were the only arrivals yesterday. Did the gentleman wear a purple cloak with silver trim? Gravi paused to reflect and then slowly nodded. Yes, actually, he and his assistant both did. That didn't seem to comfort Walter as he nervously pawed the handle of his cane parasol, having tucked it neatly away once they were inside the citadel. That not the news you wanted to hear? Plosian asked as his ears perked forward. I can't be sure yet, the nobleman admitted. Where are the prodigies taken once they arrive? Well, since she didn't have an open contract, they had to speak with our second of the society, Sire Las Kappa. Our head is away on business, so he's in charge for now, Gravi happily explained. For the first time, the root elemental of a humanoid spoke, his voice gentle and kindly. Sire Lask is currently in his office, if you wish to meet with him. That's a rarity, Plosian chuckled and then turned to offer Walter a smile. I can take you up to the dormitories if you'd like to see if he knows anything. Walter was faced with another critical decision. Alrighty, and here are your 5 choices this time. You got the first one, in response to Plosian. I would appreciate that, Sire Plosian. Please, lead the way. Your second option, you can turn to Gravy and ask, is there anyone else that they might have spoken to or met with? You can turn to the Root Elemental and ask, he's not busy, is he? I'd hate to interrupt something important. You can ask Plosian, what manner of person is Sire Lask? Would me just showing up to his office unannounced be unwise? And then your fifth option. Actually, would you mind showing me around Gryffindor first? I'm happy to meet with Sire Lask later, but I might be able to pick up on residual energies if I come across someone somewhere they passed or were. I just hate to bother your organizer. He's likely busy enough. Alright, those are your 5 options. That's the situation so far. It's getting interesting. And this is definitely another critical decision, depending on who you ask and where you go. So,